Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Reflecting Back to Spring Forward live stream event with the In Learning Partnership. I'm Lena Darnay from Keep Indiana Learning. The Indiana Learning Partnership includes Keep Indiana Learning, the In Learning Lab from 5-Star, and the Indiana Department of Education. So on behalf of all three of us, we are so excited to welcome Amy Linkle to share with us on some of her lessons that she's learned during the last couple of years and how she's using those to really propel herself forward and her staff. Amy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Lena. I really appreciate you asking me.
Well, I am thrilled to just turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Great. So thanks, Lena. And I also want to thank the In Learning Partnership for having me here today and tell you that I am very honored to be able to share with so many educators across the state of Indiana the passion that I definitely have for education. As Lena stated, and you'll see on my screen right here, I am Amy Linkle, and I am in the position at Switzerland County School Corporation as our Director of Learning K-12. I am honored to be in this position, and I was just hired as the Director of Learning in July of just this year of 2021 of the school year. I previously have been in administration in a K-6 building and being the building principal. Administration, I was there for 16 years, and I also taught 5th grade. So I definitely could have a lot of reflecting back even prior to COVID happening. And now as we spring forward of so many things that I think we're going to have to work on and listen to, not just me saying today, but so many of us with the words that start with the affix of re. There's so many things we have to reflect on, readjust, redo, and rebuild. So myself in this new position in learning curriculum and leading for grades K-12, I hope in the next 20 minutes or so, you will be able to just sit back and you'll hear a few things that you feel are like just common sense. And yeah, Amy, that makes sense to me. And you're right. Sometimes we may even have to slow down to speed up. That's one of the things I've learned with my leadership and definitely reflecting back since the pandemic is slowing down to speed up. So as we head into my slide deck just a little bit, you're going to see a couple of bullets on the screen. And some of these bullets you might think, oh, Amy, those don't look like anything new, or those look like things that I really needed to do with my mindset before the pandemic. Well, you're right. I think mindset is everything that you'll see there on the left, and being intentional, building the trust, being supportive, being brave, modeling, continually learning and being that lead learner, and then building culture, which we're really rebuilding right now, is such a huge part of reflecting back to spring forward. So if we kind of just go ahead and hop right in, I'd love to talk about intentionality. And on this slide deck, I would love to talk about how being intentional and rebuilding right now with that word re is what I think that affix is what we need to do. So you're going to hear a lot of times that people talk about learning loss. I like to think of that as opportunity loss. And the reason I do is I just think there has been unfinished learning. I think there's been opportunities that we haven't had for kids. It's not necessarily that they lost it, but it's unfinished and it's not there. So we now have to focus from the pandemic as leaders. How can we help these kids accelerate their learning? And that's when I mentioned sometimes slowing down to speed up. I think of this image of a tree. You've probably seen this image of a tree before, and you've probably heard about root causes as symptoms, as I put there. A lot of times in the schools, we see the symptoms. We see all the things that they're missing. We see all the wrong things, and we want to fix them, and we want to fix them immediately. But I think so often we have to dig down deeper and we have to find the root causes. That's why I put on there diagnose, and that's why I put on this slide be specific. I love this picture because the roots look super messy. And I think that it has to get messier before it can get better. It's just like a doctor diagnosing something and you feeling sick. Sometimes it gets worse before it's better. And in the better, and in the be specific, I think about instructional strategies. I talk with our teachers often about leading by design and not by chance. Sometimes The reason that we do lead by chance is we just don't know any better. Sometimes we only do what we know. So if we don't have a leader who has been able to give us instructional best practices to say, hey, if you're using vocabulary, use the Freyer model. It has a high effect size. Or use a T-chart. It's great for similarities and differences. And we know that the brain likes control and choice. You'll also notice that I put there that hope is not a strategy. I used to catch myself before saying to teachers, well, I hope that will work. I try really hard not to say that I hope that won't work or that it will work, because sometimes we've lost some hope. And hope isn't anything that has a large effect size, and hope isn't anything that is research-based or is a strategy. So we must diagnose, we must be specific as we're rebuilding from this opportunity loss and from this unfinished learning. The last thing I want to say on this slide is about familiarity. I talk with our teachers a lot too of the quote on the right. And I read this somewhere, I saw it somewhere, I kind of put it together because if you Google it, this quote doesn't come up. But I want to say that content is difficult enough in itself, meaning the standards are hard for our kids and the material is hard for our kids. Don't make the delivery method confusing, meaning if you can become proficient at using some of the instructional and best practices, like we talked about the Freyer model or a T-chart or using a Venn diagram or using a comparison matrix, use that cross-curricular, use that vertically from K-12. Make sure that your delivery method is very intentional and that you are not confusing your learners because their content is hard enough. So when they pop into something and they're familiar with the delivery method, then they think, oh, I can do this, because confidence is half the battle. So we must be intentional. You probably heard a lot about building trust. And sometimes today, we hear that people are scared and that they're worried. So I really think that we must be reminded that once you create trust, everything else just falls into place. Trust changes everything. I think that we more than ever need to be transparent and candid. I think there are difficult conversations that we have to have, but I think when we're building this trust, we want to talk about clarity. I always use this talk move of a triangle for clarity. I've always led in an elementary school, and these visuals help kids so much. But to help adults and to be clear, who wants to follow a leader who doesn't know where they're going? You want to have confidence. You want to build trust and gain trust because people want you to show them where we're headed, believe in them of where we're headed, and ultimately make it happen. You'll see I noted on the screen that before a teacher can make a transformational change in their classroom that we want them to have, they must trust others first. And it's even talking to teacher leaders. It's not just principals or not central office leaders, but teacher leaders. You have to be able to trust your colleagues. You have to be able to trust your other educators, your community, your friends, your families. It's super important to build trust with those around us. You'll also kind of notice I referenced the Speed of Trust book by Stephen Covey. I love it. There's so many things in the Speed of Trust, even with hiring people and about how you need to hire someone who's got high energy, hire someone that's got intelligence, but the main thing is integrity. And I think that has a lot to do with trust. And he notes there the number one reason that people leave their jobs is a bad relationship with their boss. And we want to make sure that we change everything by maybe rebuilding trust and not just building it. I think being supportive goes right along with that. Not too much on these slides, but you're going to be reminded, and I remind myself as I think about my mindset every day, I must be an active listener, even if that's not my strength. I need to listen through times of change right now, and I need to pause. I maybe need to paraphrase what someone's saying. I need to ask questions back to them. I think the biggest thing, and I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, I think we must assume positive intent. As leaders, we have teachers and people working with kids every day. They would never be here working if they didn't love kids and want to make the difference. But sometimes, again, they only know what they know. So assume positive intent when you're listening through that change. Hear what others are saying and turn what you're hearing into an action. Through that active listening, I think there does need to be discussion. I think you need to discuss back and forth as well. But I also think that you need to hear the needs that teachers or students are telling teachers that they really do need. It's easy to kind of fight or resist some of those things or put it on the back burner and make it look all pretty and fancy up front. Go back to the tree and think about the root problems and the symptoms. We need to find out those needs, and I put well-being because right now there's a lot of well-being that needs to be taken care of. And so as I reflect back to spring forward, I think I've got to put some of those people's personal needs in front of me and figure out how I, as a leader, can be supportive. I put the word authenticity. I need to be very authentic. And I just think a lot about, am I leading from my core values? I put the quote in the middle, be the help you always wish you had. And that goes with my last bullet of visibility. Even today, as a director of learning, my favorite things are to be in the building, and my favorite times are to be with the kids. But I love it because I can also help teachers. I always think of it when I was a teacher, what kind of help did I want and need? So whether you see me there that might be with the kids, maybe they need a quick pick me up, maybe they need me to cover their class for just a second. Heck, if we need to go in and sub, so many administrators are subbing every day. Whatever it is, there's never any task that's above or beneath me, but be very, very visible and be the help that you always wish you had. Being brave is probably the slide I could spend the most time on. And the reason I say I could spend the most time is I absolutely love being brave. But being transparent, I want to tell you, this has always been a weakness of mine. Until probably about the last 5 years, I've been more of black and white and fit into the box and not taking those chances with leadership. And I've definitely found that's what made me turn the edge. And when I was leading as a school principal, to make that difference, I knew I had to be very, very willing to do what that second bullet says, to turn can'ts into cans, because guess what? That's what happened on March 13th of 2020. No one would have ever told me on March 13th, 2020, that I wouldn't see my students again for the rest of the school year and say that, Amy, you're going to lead your building virtually, and as a principal, your kids are going to learn from home. I would say, no way, that is a can't. Well, there were lots of can'ts that was going on, and we still today have to figure out how to be creative to turn those can'ts into cans. I think that has to do with turning the impossibles into possibles. I think a lot about muscle memory. We've got to be willing to not fall back into muscle memory. There's so many things that we always say, we did that when it was normal. We did that before. I want to get back to that. We also need to think, is that what was best for kids? Was that muscle memory the right thing? And we also maybe need to try things for kids that create lessons for us, and we're learning as adults. Sometimes that might include initiatives that don't work. That's a difficult conversation. That's definitely being brave with your staff. But maybe there's some initiatives that didn't work, and the only reason we want to go back to them is because it was easy for us adults. And I say, as adults, what's best for kids isn't always easiest for adults. And so I think there we have to not fear failure. We have to remember that it is okay if we're going to take chances and risks. The middle sticky note, the picture there, is actually a sticky note that I can see right now in my office. And I brought that with me from my former place of employment. And I look at it every single day, and I just love it. I've written it a couple years back. It says, if we continue to do what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always got. And you have to think to yourself as you're reflecting back, is what we have enough, or can I get better and better? You also probably know Brene Brown, and you probably know Brene Brown's work. And as you look at that quote there on the right, I love her authenticity about she keeps showing up no matter if she is that mess, and she keeps doing the best that she can. I think modeling falls right into being brave. I think modeling, you have to think to yourself, what's the cost if I don't do anything here? There's a huge cost. So I've got to be brave, and I've got to be the lead learner. I have to stick my neck out. And I kind of think of like that IDOE goal of we want to go from striving to thriving. How can I, as a leader, help my school thrive? So I put down, to be the lead learner, we need to model best practices. If I talk about best practice and instruction, then I better be leading my staff meeting that way. If I talk about expectations of having a timer up and having my standards discussed and having success criteria, I better have that in my meetings. If I'm talking about using Jamboard as a digital tool, or you could use Mentimeter, or you could use a Flipgrid, I better be modeling that myself. Continual professional development, I think, is huge. You'll see a picture on the right, just that I lead a group of Indiana principals and we learn together through IPLI. They teach me, I teach them. I think we need to continue to be the lead learner. And I think that we, more than ever, just have to empower others to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's hard. That's been tough for me, but that's definitely been, when I say I turned the corner and I've turned it around, I definitely know that I have to just lead with transparency and authenticity. And I have to try things, and I have to know that it's okay if I'm uncomfortable at times, but I've got to become comfortable with it, because I ask my teachers to do that all the time. And a shout out to my teachers there on the screen, because I'm modeling some technology there. I'm modeling a timer. I'm using some different pieces I asked them to use, and look at them. They're up and about moving, and they're learning through their own professional development. So talking about learning, and I just mentioned about being the lead learner, I think we have to continually learn. And notice I put keep rebuilding. I started my first slide with the word rebuild, and I needed to use it again. We have to keep rebuilding. That picture of the school, even before the pandemic, we always wanted to be rebuilding some things. We've always got to use those words that start with re, but man, more than ever, we've got to rebuild our school of building community and building trust. We're leading in difficult times, and we definitely have to adjust during these difficult times. And I put e-learning on there because I really think a big thing here, we've learned so much from e-learning that now if someone unfortunately has to have their appendix out and they're out of school for a week, we used to give them paper pencil copies. They'll miss class. They stay in from recess. They stay after school to get tutored. Hey, can we have a live lesson into the classroom? Can we have a teacher doing a screencast? Can we do a Google Meet to do questions and someone doesn't have to drive them to school? There's so many different live pieces that we can do now. I just really think we have to adjust. We have to be brave because we turn on those cameras as teachers, and we have to know that ultimately every decision that we're making as we're readjusting is best for kids. Might not be easiest for us, but that next line, pandemic takeaways and what to keep, so many of those things that I just mentioned, hey, I can do this digitally with you now. It's even going to be recorded. You can listen to it and show it at other times if you need to. Many of the PD opportunities that I have, I don't have to drive to Indianapolis. I'm able to have them right there on the screen. I think it's great collaboration. I think it's good communication. We have digital literacy coming to us as an IDOE characteristic of our new GPS. It's going to be huge to keep our kids in the know of the digital literacy. And beyond all else, I talked about empowering others on the slide before. We need to create teacher leaders. I would never be able to do what I'm doing in education without surrounding myself with excellent people. I have been surrounded by some of the best educators in not only the state of Indiana, but the nation. And they're becoming teacher leaders, and they have those wings and they're ready to fly. We have to continually learn with them. We have to believe in them. We have to readjust. And just like Bill Gates says, success today requires the agility to drive to constantly rethink, reinvigorate, react, and reinvent. And then I also just kind of want to mention that culture, even though culture is everywhere all of the time, and you think, Amy, we shouldn't have to rebuild culture. I want you to just think right now, if you are a teacher leader, or if you're a principal, if you're in a central office, are you leading in a school that you want to lead? I put a couple of quotes there. I often say to my teachers, do I want to be a student in my own classroom? I think about that when I'm leading professional development. Do I want to be a teacher in my own classroom? Am I engaging them? Do I have high interest? Am I making the difference I need to make? Then think as a parent. You know, what are our parents saying about school? When they drop their children off in the morning and they pull away, do they feel that their kid is in the best place. Be that school that parents keep talking about, and be that leader where they want their kids to be every single day. And as a leader, we have to keep celebrating the quick wins, notice the little things, put those handwritten notes, put a sticky note at their desk, put a message on their board, be right there for them. And then also take pride in spaces. I think that school you want to lead, you want to walk into it, you want it to feel warm, you want it to feel homey, you want it to be like your school is where you want to be every day. It's just a picture of one of my principals. And he said when he took over this year, I've got this hashtag DTRT, do the right thing. He puts up some letters, splashes on some paint, and it makes it where he is so proud to be in a school he wants to lead. So in summary, as my 20 minutes is coming up, I just want you to see some of the people that I have surrounded myself with. I have a picture there of some amazing principals whom I get to work with every day. And I have a picture of my superintendent. And I will tell you that I couldn't be doing what I am doing right now. And I wouldn't have these opportunities to reflect back if I didn't have people around me with different perspectives and who challenged me to think in different ways. And I kind of wrote it out on the left because I thought if you're watching it later or you want to remember, you want to know this. But teaching's always been hard, and it's unbelievably difficult right now. I think with us as leaders, if we want to talk about mindset being a part of our skill set, we have to never lose focus of where our teachers are at, what they are doing, how hard it is. And that, to me, I think that mindset encompasses all of the bullets that I talked about today. Mindset is everything. It is, I wake up every day with that intentionality. And to end it, I thought it was actually kind of perfect. And it was just last week when I drove by our middle school here at Switzerland County, and his board said, "A beautiful day begins with a beautiful mindset." I hope that every day that you wake up, that you remember today that Amy Linkle believes in you. And I know if you are here working for kids, that I trust you, I support you. I would love for you to reach out to me if you ever need any help or assistance. My information's on the first screen. And I just want you to know again that none of this I feel like is new information for you, and you've probably heard it before, but I think it's about our how. It's how we are doing it, and it leads back to our why of kids. So Lena, and for everyone at the In Learning Partnership, I really, really, really have enjoyed reflecting back myself through this 20 minutes to remind me that I can even be a better leader every single day as well.
Well, thank you, Amy. It was so exciting to hear you and your enthusiasm, and lots of really great comments coming in with how positive your energy is and how wonderful it is to have the kids at the heart of everything we do, and their experiences being essential to why we got into teaching and why we continue to lead and grow in our profession and in our passion for making the world a better place through education. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Lena. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that if I've just made a positive impact on one, then I made the difference that I was looking for today.
I think that's a solid check mark for that one. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will have our next live stream starting at 1:30. Please join us and check out all the conversation on social media using the hashtag #InLearningPartner. Thank you for being a partner with us today, Amy, and we'll see you soon with more amazing content.